Well, good morning again, friends. It's Monday, March the 16th, and it's a beautiful sunny day here, a sunny winter day, late winter day in Russia Gornish. We're still practicing self monitoring and self isolation a little bit and social distancing, just as our own result to the COVID 19 pandemic. And what that means is that all of our regular services and programs are suspended until further notice, including, by the way, in case you haven't heard, the Maple Syrup Festival that would be out at the Village of Hope. That breakfast has been canceled. So all those who reserved their seats, had paid to reserve their seats, you'll be reimbursed in time for that. And we thank you for your understanding on it. Each day that we're doing this self-isolation, or each day during this time, I'm going to be posting a brief video just to keep us all connected with one another and keep us in the Word of God together. And most of the verses that we'll be looking at are from the book of Proverbs, in verses and passages that we're not covering during our regular Sunday morning series. And just the passage that I'd like to share with you today is actually found in the first chapter of Proverbs, verses 8 and 9. And I'm going to actually back up a bit to a verse that we have covered already in verse 7, which is it's really the key, the interpretive key to the entire book of Proverbs, that says this: fear of the Lord is reverential, or pardon me, fear of the Lord, or that kind of respect for the Lord, that awe for the Lord, is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline. And then it takes us right from there into verses 8 and 9, which takes us right into the family home. It says, "My child, listen when your father corrects you. Don't neglect your mother's instruction. What you learn from them will crown you with grace and be a chain of honor around your neck." And even as I share that, I just want to also say that I recognize that not everybody had the same kind of upbringing, and there are going to be some people who will read that for whom their experience was not one where they received a lot of loving discipline or godly wisdom. And we want to acknowledge that and just say that God sees you, He understands your situation. But Solomon is speaking more in general terms here, and he's not addressing those kinds of issues. And so there may be other passages that you would want to look at in the Bible, lots of passages there about forgiveness and personal self-worth and those kinds of things that might be more applicable in your situation. But what I do find interesting is that to some degree, Solomon also had a complicated upbringing. And you may know some of his story, but the fact that he was even on the planet, the fact that he even existed, was a result of an affair between the king and one of his subjects that ended up in his birth, but also had some residual results that were the most tragic kinds of results. And so as Solomon grew up, he would have begun to hear those stories and maybe had a lot of questions about those himself. But I also want to just say that even as he got older and ascended to the throne, he still held a respect for his parental figures. And there's a passage I want to share with you. It's in 1 Kings 2. Actually, I'll let you read it on your own if you like. But in 1 Kings 2, Bathsheba, who is his mother, comes to him after he's the king. He's well on his way to becoming one of the wealthiest people who ever lived. And she comes to him and she wants to have a meeting. She requests that, or a meeting with the king, who also happens to be her son. And the details, without getting into the details of what she wanted to come and ask him or speak to him about, or his response to her request, because that will just tell you a little bit more about how complicated family life can be. I just find the physical response to her request to just meet with him to be very interesting. He really does for her three things. The first thing he does when she comes into the throne room, how he responds is he rises to meet her, which he didn't do for anybody else. He rose to meet her out of respect for who she was. Then the second thing it says is that he bowed before her. Usually his subjects bowed to him, but he bowed before his mother as she came into the room. And then the third thing is he requested for a chair to be brought and sat in the most esteemed place at his right side, so that they could speak to one another on level ground as equals. And again, I think this is something that maybe can be taken for all of us, something that we can take from it, because as we all acknowledge the role of our parental figures in our upbringing, regardless of their flaws, and where possible, the godly correction and instruction that we receive from them, especially as we grow older. Not only are our parents honored by that, by the act of that, but the Lord is also honored, because it is a reflection of the reverent respect that we ultimately want to give to Him. And so keep that in mind in your own family relationships this week. Friends, just take care, and we trust that you'll stay safe and stay faithful, and the Lord willing, we'll see you again here tomorrow. God bless.